Have you ever looked at ancient traditions, specifically something like the Vedas, and thought they were just a collection of random religious chants or symbolic stories? It's a common view. We often see them as mystical or outdated rituals from a long time ago. But what if I told you that these ancient texts aren't just poetry? They are actually built on a very precise, very logical system. Every sound, every rhythm, and every tone was designed with a specific purpose in mind. Think of it like a blueprint or a piece of sophisticated software. For example, some parts of the Vedas are grouped into 7 distinct sections. Over the centuries, people started calling these the 7 worlds, and it turned into a bit of a fantasy concept. But the reality is much more practical. The author of the article I'm looking at today argues that these groupings weren't meant to be mythology. They were structural. It was a way of organizing knowledge so it could be used effectively. The core of this system boils down to 3 levels: sound, meaning, and practice. Think about that for a second. Most of the time, we choose just one. Some people might chant the sounds perfectly but have no idea what they mean. Some people might study the philosophy and the theory behind the words but never actually apply it. And some others might try the rituals or the practice without understanding the correct sound or the underlying logic. According to this Vedic perspective, if you have only 1 or 2 of those pieces, you're incomplete. To make this easier to understand, let's use a simple analogy from the article. Cooking. Imagine you want to make a great meal. First, you have the recipe, that's the theory, that's the meaning. Second, you actually get in the kitchen and turn on the stove. That's the experiment, that's the sound and the action. And third, you eat the food and gain strength from it. That's the result or the practice. Now imagine just reading a recipe book all day but never picking up a pan. Does that fill your stomach? Of course not. Or imagine throwing random ingredients into a pot without following any logic. You probably won't get a healthy result. This is exactly how Vedic knowledge is meant to work. You need the sound to be correct, you need to understand why you are doing it, and you have to actually do the work to see the result. If you skip any part, the science of it breaks down. So why is there so much confusion about it today? Well, it's about how we learn. In ancient times, the learning process was complete. Students lived with their teachers, their gurus. They didn't just read books, they practiced, they tested, and they experienced the results for themselves. Because they had personal experience, their faith wasn't blind, it was based on evidence. Today we live in a world of quick information. We want the theory in a 30-second clip. We question everything, which is fine, but we often question things without ever actually practicing them. We want the strength of the meal without doing the cooking or the eating. And because we are not doing the full method, we don't get the results. And when we don't get the results, we get confused or dismissive. The big takeaway here is that Vedic knowledge is a practical science. It's not about blind belief or mystical secrets. It's about a specific method: sound plus meaning plus practice. When you combine those 3, it stops being a tradition you just observe from the outside. It becomes a tool you can actually use. Nothing mystical, nothing complicated. Just a complete system that's waiting to be used the way it was originally intended. Thanks for listening. Next time you come across an ancient tradition, ask yourself, am I just looking at the recipe or am I ready to start cooking?